Yo, what's up YouTube? It's Reed, that guy that still plays on console in the year 2021, and I'm back with a much awaited settings video. Console settings, what the #1 player on console, as said by JGod himself, what his settings are. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to go through all my settings and break down what I use and why I use it that way. Before I start, I gotta point out that you guys copying my settings, or copying any of my settings, or copying anything, it's not gonna make you 10 times a better player. It might make you a little bit better, it might make you a little bit worse. These are all just personal preference. I use a weird combo of settings, almost anybody will tell you that. They are not, copying my settings is not going to give you the 10 hours a day for 10 plus years experience of muscle memory that I put into my hands. It's not going to give you my IQ and in-game knowledge and awareness of the map. It's not going to do that for you. So be cautious if you're thinking about copying my settings, but just to break it down for you, I'm going to go through and tell you guys each and everything and why I use it. So to start, we got the button layout. So I started playing Bumper Jumper Tactical. I played Tactical all my life. Ever since MW2, I wanted to learn how to drop shot right away. Then in Black Ops 3, through the GOAT T. Martin, his tips and tricks videos got me started. He taught me about Bumper Jumper Tactical. I couldn't convince my parents, this is back when I lived in high school, I couldn't convince my parents to let me get a fancy $200 scuff controller to be running around jump shotting and drop shotting, and this was the best alternative. So you can still jump with L1 without taking your thumb off the thumbstick. Super important. That is a very important thing to do. You never want to have to take your thumb off the thumbstick. So Bumper Jumper Tactical allowed me to do that in Black Ops 3. Even when I did finally end up getting a Battle Beaver controller, I never stopped. Never stopped playing on Bumper Jumper. My mind muscle memory's in there. I don't want to change it. Stick layout preset default, invert look disabled. Some people turn it on, some people don't. That's like a intuition kind of thing. Dead zone 0.03. I always say you want your dead zone as low as you can possibly get it. Honestly, if my controller didn't drift a little bit, I'd play on 0.0, but I like 0.03. This works the best with how long my controllers last, and it still feels pretty low. Like I said, I like a low controller. Even on this controller when it was brand new, I put it down to 0.00 and it still drifted a little bit, so I said screw it, I'm going to stay on the 0.03 that I was using on the controller before that. Keep it there. Horizontal stick sensitivity 7. I used to always play on max sensitivity up until I started playing COD competitively. Before I used to start trick shotting and stuff like that, and then once I started playing for money, I was told you got to lower your sensitivity. It's way more important to hit every bullet in every gunfight than it is to occasionally be able to turn on somebody or do some wild, crazy stuff like a 360 or a 180 or anything like that. It's way more important to be consistent and hit all your shots. Some people don't agree with that. Some people like playing on a higher sensitivity. That's all to you. Vertical sensitivity. Before jetpacks, or even during jetpacks, I played on a 7, just straight 7.7. Then when we went from Infinite Warfare to World War II, went from people flying all over the place, up and down, you got to look all over the place in all directions, 360 all the time. When you went to World War II, the most I ever had to look up was a second, maybe a third-story window, so there really wasn't a need to be looking up and down as much. So I tried turning my sensitivity down to a 5, turn it down to, and I liked it. I felt like it was way easier to beam people off of head glitches, and it was way easier to get sniper kills without getting hit markers. You know, it was really easy to make those tiny vertical adjustments, which is super useful for having a sniper. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for Warzone because you do have to look vertically a lot. There are a lot of really tall buildings and a lot of situations where people are flying up above you or down below you where it is important to look vertical. If I wasn't so super used to this, I might consider changing it, but I still feel like it makes my sniper shot really nice, and I just like the way it feels. So not necessarily saying I do or don't recommend it, but that's the reason why I use it. ADS sensitivity, I tried with these when they first got added into Call of Duty. I don't remember what game that was, Modern Warfare maybe. I tried tweaking these a little bit, 0.8, 0.7, 0.9, moving it around there. I like 0.8. For the high zoom for snipers, I like the 0.9. In Cold War, I actually play with it on a 1. It feels weird to me on Cold War to play on a 0.9, but for the game that matters, I play on a 0.9. Aim response curve type. When Modern Warfare first came out and it had the response curves, I tried all the different combos, standard, linear, dynamic, with a bunch of different aim assists too. I tried a bunch of different combos to see what I liked the best. Linear is the one that just felt the most natural to me. It felt the most comfortable, so I stuck with it. I don't recommend you ever change these around. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I feel like these come down to personal preference. I like the way linear feels. Controller vibration. Everybody will tell you I'm a weirdo for this. Very few people anywhere play with vibration on. A lot of people say it messes them up. Ever since I picked up a controller and started playing video games, I had vibration on. It has always been on all my controllers, so I definitely feel really weird when I turn it off. I've tried turning it off before. I tried getting used to it, and my aim doesn't feel right. My aim feels really weird without vibration on, so I would keep it on. Don't necessarily recommend it. If it's for you, it's for you, but most people aren't a fan of it. Aim assist disabled. Everybody knows aim assist is for cheaters. You're not have to explain that one. Weapon mount activation. I do ADS plus melee. Some people do double tap ADS. If you do just ADS, that might make you accidentally mount on things when you don't want to. Personal preference on these ones. You don't want it disabled. You want to be able to mount on things. Makes your gun shoot straighter. Weapon mount movement exit. That way, if I ever move while mounted, it breaks it off. I don't have to press any extra buttons. Aim on sight behavior. Hold toggle. Personal preference. Whatever you like, you like. Equipment behavior. Same thing. Use/reload behavior, your contextual tap. Now, I played for the longest time just on tap to reload or tap to use. I just played on one of those. I didn't realize for the longest time you can physically grab things faster if you are playing on contextual tap. Didn't realize that. I was like, no, it doesn't take that long to like hold to pick things up. It's not that big of a deal. Then I tried it, I switched to contextual tap, and I was literally just grabbing a whole pile of loot instantly. It was insane how much faster you were able to. So I switched to contextual tap, no regrets. I strongly recommend you do that as well. Might take a little bit to get used to things. Sometimes still it's hard for me to like reload if I'm standing in a pile of loot, but it's definitely worth it. Depleted ammo weapon switch. Automatically switch weapons when your gun's out of ammo. Definitely recommend it. Armor play behavior. There are very few situations in which apply one could even be considered better. You definitely want to have apply all, so that way as soon as you go to put in the armor, it just keeps it going. You don't have to keep your finger on the armor button. Definitely like that. Slide behavior. I use tap to slide. I like tapping rather than holding. Very rarely would it make me accidentally slide because I tap. If it's something you got to get used to, you might have to get used to it, but I definitely feel like this can save your control a little bit too, especially helps with slide canceling. Auto move forward. I don't think anybody should have this on just because in some situations it can get stuck moving forward and it can screw you up. I don't recommend it. Sometimes I'll turn it on if I like need to go AFK while I jump out of the plane and then I just fly really far because it automatically moves you forward without you having to hold your controller, but it's the only situation when that one's useful. Automatic sprint. Auto tac sprint. I went a full year, I think, of Warzone without playing on auto tactical sprint. And once I changed, it was insane. It was insane the things that I could do that I would not be able to do before. Like my movement was already starting to get good on just regular disabled. But once I switched to auto tactical sprint, I was able to do some crazy stuff. I was instantly getting people like saying things about my movement. So I definitely... This one's more of a trade-off because if I'm like on a ledge of a building or something like that, shotguns I can't use, akimbo pistols are hard to use, a riot shield's pretty much impossible to use. All that stuff is minor stuff that you're trading off. You're not really able to use with auto attack sprint, and it does take some getting used to. But I strongly recommend if you are focused on having good movement that you try out auto attack sprint. It also saves your controller. That's the reason why I tried it in the first place, was because my controller was starting to die. My left thumbstick was starting to go out, so I was like, let me try this to at least preserve this controller, and it felt really nice. Vehicle camera recenter, disabled it. I think this is what, I've had this disabled for a really long time. I think this one is where like your camera, like if you don't touch it for a second, even if you're like looking to the right, it'll just like automatically jerk to the center. I don't like that. You don't want that on. Parachute auto deploy. This is how you see me land so close to the ground all the time. I'll pull my chute very, very last second because it won't automatically go. I've broken my ankles a large amount of times. People have made jokes about it all the time. I break my ankles a lot. But it's just kind of something you get used to. I recommend you play with it disabled. Brightness, I set my brightness to 60. I want those dark corners to pop a little bit without being too whitewashed. Personal preference. Safe area, you set that custom to your monitor, TV. Film grain, turn it off. Tooltips, I leave it on. It doesn't really make a big difference at all. Subtitles, personal preference, I leave them off. Language selection, English. Colorblind type, so ever since Modern Warfare 3, I don't know how many COD OGs were played back then and remember this, but in Modern Warfare 3, there was a kill streak called the Stealth Bomber. And when it got called in, the enemy team didn't have it on their minimap. It didn't show up, so you had no idea where the streak was coming from, and this streak like went crazy on the map. It killed a lot of people. And if you turn on colorblind, you could see the enemy team's stealth bombers coming in. So ever since Modern Warfare 3, I always, whenever I load up a new COD, instantly throw colorblind on. No reason why. I just kind of like having different colors for things. Colorblind target, I set it to both, so it affects both in-game and the menu. Motion blur, both of these, turn them off. You don't want them on. Noobs play with motion blur on, keep them off. On-demand texture streaming, not gonna lie, don't really know what this means. I have really high-speed internet, so I turn it on. I don't notice any difference at all with whenever they added this. I don't see anything different. All up to you. Minimap shape, square, you literally just see more. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. A minimap rotation, I want it on. It's up to you if you like it to rotate with your character or not. Compass cardinal directions, I keep them on so that way when somebody says they're west, I don't have to memorize what number west is. I don't want to do that. I already struggle enough when somebody calls out west instead of just live pinging it. Text chat, I keep it on. Very rarely is it used. Profanity filter, yes, for when the weirdos are there and they want to be weird and say weird stuff. Gore effects, always. Game's rated M. Game installs and credits, no, not important. Audio, I definitely don't recommend you to copy my settings. I can never hear anything, bro. I swear my ears don't work. But I don't know how much of it is this game having horrible audio, like vertical audio and stuff like that, and how much is me not having the right settings. I've played on both boost high and boost low for like months straight at a time. I've swapped them back and forth. I don't notice a difference. I can't. They're different, but neither one's better than the other. So I don't really recommend either one over the other. Probably personal preference. Master volume, 60. I don't want to go deaf, bro. I'm not trying to go deaf by 30. This game's loud with a lot of loud noises. Music volume, you should always turn that way down. I always keep it at 5 just so it's not completely dead silent. And sometimes, I don't really think this has ever made a difference, but sometimes like those audio cues in intense moments can kind of help out. Up to you if you actually want that or not. 0, 5, 10, anything like that, but you want it low. Dialogue volume, I think this is the guy that's yelling in your ear, enemy UAV inbound or stuff like that. You know what, I'm actually going to turn that down a little bit because I just realized it's pretty loud. We're going to go with 60 on that one. Effects volume, I was told very recently, for the longest time I played with this on 30 because it's like your helicopter and stuff. So I don't want to be going deaf, but somebody recently told me that this is footsteps, and hearing footsteps is pretty important in Warzone. So I turned it up to 100. Can't really tell you if it's necessarily better or not. Juggernaut music, I'm never in a jug, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah, to have some music blast in my ear, why not? Hit marker sound effects, I just like the way classic sounds. These are all 3 personal preference. You definitely want a sound on your hit markers so you can have an extra audio cue for when you're hitting people. Mono audio, I think you want that disabled if you're using headphones. Again, I'm not the best on this audio stuff. Voice chat enabled. I like hearing death comms, bro. There's so much comedy and so much funny stuff going on. I know there's a lot of weirdos that say no words and stuff that can get you in trouble. I just try to delete any clips or anything like that, or like yell over it so that way it's not a big deal. Don't give them the attention they're looking for. But yeah, I keep it a little bit low so that way it's not like if it's super loud, it's not blatantly bad. But there's some funny stuff that happens in game chat. You gotta have voice chat on. Mic volume, I physically can't talk in game chat, so this doesn't matter to me. War track as passengers, I'm almost never listening to these. I keep it on just in case for those rare occasions when I'm trying to jam out a little bit. But I almost always get in a vehicle and instantly turn them off. But, you know, very rare situations I want to have them on. So I just, I turn the volume down pretty far so they're not, like, super loud. And yeah, I think that goes through and breaks down all the settings. You need to see my account settings. I think that goes through and breaks everything down for you guys. Like I said, copying these is not going to guarantee you to get any better at the game. This is just to let you guys know this is what I use. This is what the JGod certified #1 console player in the world use. So please feel free to like the video if you guys enjoyed. Sub if you're new. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm out. You guys have a good one.